everybody, welcome back to my channel. Glad you could join me today. I got a comment recently from one of the people who watch my videos, and it was on one of my older videos on the first book in the Deathgate cycle by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman, titled Dragon Wing. And it's actually been one of my most commented on videos, surprisingly. And so I got a comment on that video asking me if I was going to do a video for each book individually in the series, or if I was going to wait and do a series review once I finished reading it. And I thought about it for a while, and I decided, I think I'll do a little bit of both. I'll do a book overview for each book individually, and then I'll do a why you should read video for the entire series once I've finished it. So the second book in the series I'm going to be talking about today is Elven, and I'll share a little bit about that in just a few minutes. But just make sure that if you're enjoying this video, make sure you slap a like on it and you subscribe to my channel. It does help me with the algorithms and getting more views on YouTube, so that's always nice. And make sure you read the description below the video as always, because I do leave links and other information in the description below, specifically affiliate links where you can buy these books that I talk about. So make sure you're always checking that out. And let's get right to the book overview for Elven. As I said, this is the second book in the Deathgate cycle by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. It follows a world that has come about as a result of the sundering of a major world. And that just basically means that one world was ripped apart and it became various different separate worlds, each with their own unique characteristics and little idiosyncrasies and dangers that await in each of those worlds. And it was caused by a group of wizards who just caused so much turmoil with their magic that it literally ripped the world apart. And you could think of it almost as an Earth-type world, but it's been divided into several different worlds. The first one was Arianis, which is the realm of sky, and you had to have transport like airships or dragons to traverse the different parts of Arianis. And in this book, this is the world of fire, the world of Prion. And the book I'm reading now is the third book in the series, which takes place in the world of stone. So Elven takes place in Prion, and this is a world that has no darkness, virtually no nighttime. It is surrounded by 4 different suns that constantly light the entire world, and it rains an extreme amount on this world as well. So as a result, there are large jungles that have grown up of trees and vegetation because of the combination of so much rain and so much sunlight. And the world does include all of the many different races, with the exception of 2, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But it includes elves and humans and dwarves. And the elves and humans live in the trees, and so they live above the ground. They never set foot on the ground. But the dwarves do live on the ground. They're really the only race in this book that does. And the elves and humans sell weapons and other things to the people on the ground, to the dwarves. And there's constant race wars going on between them. And the main character of the series, not really a hero per se, but also not really a villain. He's very much an anti-hero. He is one of a mysterious race known as the Patrons, who have runes embedded on their skin in the form of tattoos, kind of like that. And they work their magic by tracing the tattoos and speaking words associated with those runes. And there's also a sister race to the patrons known as the Sartans, who are mostly believed to have been extinct. And he's kind of on a vengeance mission of sorts to track down any trace of the Sartans, if they are still alive or if they still remain in the world or in the worlds that have been sundered apart, to eradicate them and get his vengeance upon them. And he follows an equally mysterious benefactor who he calls his lord, and his master sends him through Death's Gate to all of these different worlds to find out more about them and to research them, and mostly to research the Sartan race and to see what's become of them. So Prion is a very unique world, as I mentioned. It is beset by enormous amounts of rain and sunlight, and it's very humid, and so the dwarves like to be in darkness and everything like that, which is probably why they seek to be on the ground, so that they can be under the shade of the trees. And Haplo, the main character, comes to this world on his airship, and he happens upon the Mensch, as he calls them, which is a derogatory term for someone of a lesser race. And he happens upon the wars and battles that are going on between the elves and humans and dwarves. And the one of the Mensch in particular has sought the help of a human wizard who appears on the scene to help tell him about the stars and different things like that, so that he can better understand his world. And the wizard is really where the comic relief comes into play in this series. The first book was really quite serious in its tone, kind of dry in places, which you would kind of expect for a first book in a series. They're just kind of getting their feet under them with the series and the world. But this book is much more lighthearted, while still having its very serious moments, of course. But Zifnab, the wizard, he provides the majority of the comic relief in this book, and he is just absolutely hilarious. I found myself just laughing out loud so many times at some of his antics. He is accompanied by a wingless dragon who he protects, but the dragon also kind of mothers him, and they're constantly plotting back and forth with each other, and just all this sarcastic humor, banter that goes back and forth between them. It is just absolutely a riot. One of the main antagonists in this book are a mysterious group of beings known as the Titans, and they're constantly going among the people of Prion and asking about the location of the Citadel, and nobody really knows what the Citadel is, and if they don't know, the Titans end up killing them, because if you don't know where the Citadel is, you're basically worthless. And so people are constantly in fear of their lives because of these Titans, and that's one of the reasons they are buying weapons and things like that from the elves and humans. But there is a small band of elves, humans, and dwarves that get together to find the Citadel, hopefully, and find out what it's all about and where it's at, and so maybe they can eventually appease the Titans. It's a really, really well-crafted story. I love the fact in this series that all the different worlds are completely unique from each other. There's no world in this series that really resembles another at all. And I like that. It's very unique. It's very different. And it turns out that the stars that the gentleman who hired the wizard was hoping to find out more about, later on it's discovered that those are actually different cities and citadels, and they find this citadel that has Sartan runes on it, and they try to figure out a way to get into the city and build another life for themselves away from the Titans in safety. And just a really unique tale. But what's really interesting is the power dynamic, because Haplo, the patron, is on a specific mission to find out what happened to the Sartan, and he's constantly looking for clues, and he has completely ulterior motives for even interacting with the lowly mensch. And he has his airship that he can escape in at any time, and eventually he needs to bring other people along with him on the airship so that they can escape the attacks of the Titans. And I really had so much fun reading this book, even more so than Dragonwing. Especially the banter between Zifnab and his dragon. I mean, for one thing, Zifnab is just a hilarious name. If you ask me, what a name for a wizard. And Zifnab definitely embodies his name. Such a weird name, but he is a very weird and eccentric person. And so I think it fit him very well. He speaks in a very cryptic way in many instances. A lot of what he talks about you may recognize from pop culture if you're into things like Star Wars and things like that. So he just brings up all this weird stuff. It was so funny. But I love also how this story continually builds on the backstory of the Patron race and the Sartan race, and you get to see little glimpses of Haplo's background and what he's dealt with. It comes up even more so in the third book, where you just get so much more detail into what happened to him as a patron and his other fellow patrons. So I won't get into that right now. I'll do that when I talk about the review for the third book. But I can't recommend this series enough. If you like interesting magic systems, the Deathgate cycle is definitely for you. The patron magic system with the runes embedded on the skin in the form of tattoos is just really unique and different. And the Sartans have a similar rune magic, but instead of it being on their skin, it's more of an internal rune system, where as they dance the runes and as they sing the runes, it causes their magic to come forth and come alive. So the Patron and the Sartan are very similar in some ways, and very, very, very different in many other ways. So I just had a lot of fun with this story, and I really think you will too. I give it a solid 4 stars. I only say 4 stars because it didn't give me enough to feel like it was an amazing, absolutely fantastic 5-star read that I would read again and again and again. But in the context of the series, it's well worth reading at least once or twice. And maybe I will feel differently by the end of the series. Maybe I'll think it worth reading even more than that. But that's the thing with this series. There's 7 books in the series, and they each build on each other. So you're definitely left with cliffhangers. You're left with unanswered questions. And so while there was good comic relief and good storyline and really interesting magic and character interactions, I still think it left a little bit to be desired. So I give it a 4-star review. And let me know what you think in the description below. Have you read this series? Has it been something that's been on your list to read? Have you never heard of it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk more with you and find out your thoughts on it. If you have other questions that I did not answer about the series, maybe I can answer those for you in the questions too. But make sure to check out the previous video that I did on this series for Dragonwing. I will link it at the end of this video, so you can check that out and kind of see what all the hype was about initially with the one of my most commented on videos. And so I hope you'll check that out, and make sure you check this book out too. The series as a whole I have not finished yet, but what I've experienced so far, I think it's well worth getting into. And it's not a massive 10 or 12 book series like other series out there like Malazan and the Stormlight Archive that Brandon Sanderson is writing. It's not so massive that you're just going to have all these different books that you're going to have to get through. It's only 7 books in the series, and it's a complete series too, which is a nice benefit. It's, you know, once you're done with it, you have the complete story. You're not waiting for extra books to come out. So some definite pluses there, and I highly recommend you read it. Let me know in the comments your thoughts, and as always folks, let me know of other books that you think I should be reading, or other things that you would like to see from me on this channel. I'd love to have feedback and dialogue with you about that. Make sure to share this video with your friends and hit the notification bell so that you can get notifications for when my new videos come out. And as always, my friends, make sure that you're reading more books. I will talk to you in my next video. Have a great one. Bye.